I thought I caught that. I thought I caught it. I caught it on one thing and not on the other. I'd absolutely muted myself across the entire platform. So this is going really well. What a start. This is what I get for trying to get in early and get yesterday's stuff in today. This is why. I just gotta stop. I gotta stop. I gotta stop being diligent about this shit. Because obviously it's not working and I'm crap at it. But there we go. You know, drinkers with technical problems or technical problems with gaming problems, you get where I am at with that. So that's where we are. Welcome in. Welcome to the finale day, or the start of the finale for IAE, where everything becomes flyable that was previously flyable, and we can have a look at some brand new warbonds, and we'll also have a look today at the best in show paints that have magically reappeared on the store. A little bit of the controversy around that. God, why was that so hard to say? Also, let me know how the camera's going. So I think I'm running it at the same resolution roundabouts, but I'm using a different camera. This one should be better quality. It will probably pick up a lot more of the kind of light variation, but there we go. And this is about as zoomed in as I can get it at the minute. So I'm hoping that it reads okay. Welcome in to John Chavez, to Marcus, to Calco, to Takes Deep Breath, Ashra, Socially Confused, Ray Louderbeck, Hey Winter, Wiggy1, to Wastelander SC, Del Kenobi, and everyone in between. Hopefully I've got most of you, but there where we go. That's where we go. Yeah, so running off a GoPro, but using the GoPro webcam app. Unfortunately, through the NVIDIA broadcast, which does like my background removal and stuff, it still only allows me a maximum of 1920 by 1080. There we go. And I've broken it because I just clicked it as we were talking, of that resolution. So if I want the background replacement, maybe I need to go something else. Maybe I need to get an actual background. That would be cool. And then I could run this at native, which is obviously much higher than normal resolutions. But that's where we are. Right. I'm going to jump across pretty quick to the best in show stuff, because obviously we've only got now 25 minutes till this stuff disappears off the store. The Warbond stuff currently on mobile, says Marcus. Looking good. Good. I'm really pleased. Viper Leo, AV, welcome in. Ravenfort, good to see you. I'm glad. I hopefully we're talking about the me and not the stream. Went for the sexualized rage bait clickbait title this time around. Just something of a bit of a lol. So I was laughing so much when I wrote it, I actually wrote lol in brackets. As I'm sure you saw, but let's jump across and see what is going on in the world of Star Citizen right this moment. SC Kingdom, welcome in, good to see you. So here we go. Okay, so best in show stuff: Polaris Asgard, Zeus Mark II ES, and the Anvil Gladiator, and a Warbond up to each. Now, they're basically $15 off for the Gladiator and for the Zeus. The Polaris is a whole, as we have a look at it. Oh, no, I didn't mean to add. Okay, apparently now I'm getting a Zeus. There we go, good. I'm not getting a Polaris, by the way. That's not happening. But a whole $100 off. And the Asgard, I think, is $25 off. Let's have a look. So yeah, $25 off on an Asgard. So not bad at all. I quite like all of the ships that are shown in the best in show stuff. The Polaris, obviously, for big ship stuff, it's a very not niche so much, but you need to be prepared for a very specific way of playing to run around with the Polaris. And the key thing with the Polaris, as far as I'm concerned, is that it's group play. Yes, there's talk of NPC crew. Yes, there's talk of blades and all that sort of stuff. But we don't know what form that takes. And it's such a large financial investment. I feel I've got to be a little bit careful about kind of clicking on to ships like that, expecting there to be enough NPC, enough blades to run it efficiently. That is obviously the hope of many, and I'm not trying to, rail it. I'm not trying to say that they're wrong or that shouldn't happen. I'm merely saying people should be aware that it's been a long time since we've talked about, or they've talked about stuff like that. Citizen Ninja, welcome in. Good to see you. So yeah, Asgard, not a bad firepower / transport ship. I quite like the Gladiator. I've got to say, it's got a bit of a special place in my heart. I like those kind of dual role fighter bombers. I think they're quite good fun, and I had some fun flying it around as well. And the Zeus, it's probably one of my lesser favourite RSI ships, but still quite good fun. I think the interior is nicely designed. Yeah, so there we go. Holding off with my Perseus to Polaris CCU, even though it would give me a $350 Polaris, which is pretty good. It would be, absolutely. Fishhead Break Room, welcome in. Gladiator was on my original pledge in 2012. Nice. Support to the OG Gladiator crew. Really, players you can get with John Citizen or Growth the Janitor. With NPC, you're going to get Ricky. Just Ricky. Ricky, real, whichever, I guess. Melted Perseus to Polaris. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so that's that. And then, obviously, a bit of a surprise. So the Best in Show paints came out. I actually quite like them. They might be a little bit yellow in places for my taste, but I don't actually think they're that bad. I quite like them. I mean, not the Best in Show packs, obviously. And then the Best in Show paints reappeared. And this is a bit of a surprise. We weren't expecting this. Normally, the only way you, or previously, the only way you could own these was to have these in your account at the end of IAE. And they had to be in your account, not in buybacks, or not just held as an unapplied CCU, is my understanding. So you get these, and, you know, I don't like last year's. I think it's very kind of cartoony. My favourite are 2953 and 2952. I think they're good-looking paints. And then, you know, the blue one, fine. The white one's kind of cool. I do like the white one, the white and gold. Sorry, I'm gonna go all out and have myself a Diet Coke because that's where we go. Hello, Luna. Good to see you too. Welcome in. Nice that you could be here. Yeah. So that's those, and then the older. So I've got a couple of the ships that are kind of shown in here. I've got the Redeemer. Sorry, Redeemer. I've got the Reclaimer. I've got the MPUV. I've got the Pisces and the Spirit and so on and so forth. But having said that, there aren't that many that I want, and I'm sure these are only available today. If I'd thought about it, I might have picked up the Pisces, but it's fine. It's not the end of the world if I don't get it. So it caused a little bit of controversy when this happened. I'm really struggling to say that, aren't I? A bit of a controversy when this happened, and there's two parts to this. The first is the argument around exclusivity, and people didn't like that, or some people didn't like that. Some people really do like that, and I'll go on to my thoughts on that in a second. The other part of it is that it seems to have removed some Best in Show CCUs from people's accounts. So, you know, obviously the latter definitely not good, whichever way you look at it. This one, do you know what? I'm quite all right with them having. I'm just going to get that out of my cart because it's kind of freaking me out a little bit. I don't want it in there. No, not so much. Not so much. So yes, I don't want to accidentally buy myself an entire Polaris. So there we go. Best in Show paints, as we've said before. Great. It's not loading as normal. Resist the temptation. Not much of a temptation there at all, Hellwinter, to be honest. But that's where we are with this. And, you know, the bit that I keep coming back to with regards to the paints and everything else is that the paints have reduced FOMO. And that's where I come back to. I'm not about to smash Star Citizen in the face because they've reduced the FOMO. And that's where I go with this. You know, it's not like you had to make some big in-game effort to get this. There was no real. All you had to do was own the ships. You could own those ships and not have played in years, and you still would have gotten the skins. So I'm kind of. I don't mind it. I think it's a bit of a non-issue, to be honest. I think what you probably would genuinely find is those who are bothered about the exclusivity have the paints, and those who are not bothered about the exclusivity and want to reduce FOMO are those that don't have it. And I know I'm massively generalizing. I know that's not going to apply to everyone, but I think generally speaking, if you had to divide the two camps into those with and those without, that's the way it would fall. FOMO is FOMO when people want something. It's exclusivity and a reward when you have it, and that's the dividing line. So that's where we go with that. One slip and suddenly you have a gold-plated chip, says Calco. Yeah, don't want to do that. Absolutely. Favours the Prowler utility with that fire paint. It looks amazing. I'm a massive fan of the Prowler in all its forms. So yes, we'll have a look at that in a second if the paint's still up. Avi says, I mean, I have no real issue with them reoffering the skins, although I would have preferred some mission or something in game to get them rather than just reselling them. My original Cutty 2949 Best in Show edition still has the ship title and the Cutty schematics, so the original is still nice. Nice. Yeah, nothing like that was intended to be actually exclusive. It was just like that, getting them for free if you owned the ship. Is my understanding too. The haves and the have-nots, ancient history, 100% Luna, exactly that. A tale as old as time, and I'm doing so well not to break out into song. The Disney vibe is strong today, notwithstanding the title and the thumbnail. You wouldn't see that in a Disney film. So that's where we are. I'm just glad the Eater finally got a paint, says Malemba. Been waiting years. Welcome in, bud. Yeah, they have products to say, so they'll sell, products to sell, so they'll sell them. I think access to previous year's Best in Show should have happened years ago, personally, says Wiggy. Yeah. 100%, I'm a bit grumbly, but at the end of the day, it's pushed paint. This is this. That's what it is. You know, the things like the golden ticket thing, because you had to go and try it. I mean, okay, it was low effort for some people. I mean, I gave just golden tickets away. I just left them lying around the place. I had so many at the end of the event. When we found out that they were going to remove them, I just left them lying around all over the place. But you know, when there is there is some level of effort that needed to be applied. You couldn't just AFK from the game for 3 years, come back and be like, haha, I've got it. The Nightweave paint is a really nice like reward for that, and it's not a bad way to go, right? I think that's kind of cool. So there was some sort of effort in there that had to be applied, that you had to interact with the game to get that to happen. So I get the Nightweave paint being a little bit more exclusive. It is a reward. It is showing off an achievement. What you show off for the fact that you have an Eclipse or a Carrack or a Valkyrie in your account is the fact that you have an Eclipse or a Carrack or a Valkyrie in your account. That's what you get to show for it. You bought it. That's what you've got. To then just accrue because you own them, and then expecting those who are actively participating in the game not to get them, I'm not entirely sure that's the best way forward. So there we go. Vipoleo says, I wish the current Best in Show paints was something I could get for the Paladin. Feels like it fits perfectly. Yeah, there's always going to be a measure of exclusivity, and that's the ships to which the paints apply. And they have said now that you need the specific variants in your account. So I'm not sure which one I'm guessing it's the C one, the Spirit. Maybe it applies to all of them in that instance. I don't know. I do have my favorite paint from this is the Vulture. I've got that paint for the Vulture, and it's gorgeous. Really happy with that. Nightweave paint should be a rare loot drop. Yeah, absolutely. Or a rare kind of schematic, something like that. Like a once-use only recipe would be really cool. So you can find it, craft it, but it doesn't get added to your recipe bank. I'm sure they'll do stuff like that in the future. So yeah, that's where we go. That's where everything is. Ta-da! I'm not going to go and buy stuff on stream because it shows address and everything, doesn't it? And yeah, we don't know each other like that. That's not how that happens. So that's where we are. A little bit of drama, a little bit of mess, all that sort of stuff that always happens with this sort of thing. Now, if it is the case that CIG have removed some of the $0 CCUs that enable people to go to Best in Show, they need to fix that rickety tick. I don't believe in them suddenly removing stuff from people's accounts without telling them or offering an alternative. and that's what seems to have happened in a couple of instances. So it's worth going back and checking if that's you. Ruboy, welcome in. 2950 and 53. I like that one. And 53. Yeah, I actually quite like this one. I think this one's quite cool. I actually quite like that a lot. What's the other? What's the bigger one? Yeah, of course it's Carrick. Of course it's Carrick. Why wouldn't it be the Carrick? I think it's kind of nice. But there we go. That's those. And of course, the warbonds are changing over today. Excuse me. Cool. It's been a week. All right. It's just not the streaming stuff. I'm only streaming for a couple of hours a day. It's not the streaming stuff. It's just been a week. So I'm really sorry. I know I'm yawning at you. I'm trying not to. I'm trying to keep it under control. My bad. But we'll get there in the end. So yeah. I have the F8 skin, but I refuse to buy the F8 because it's the worst performing heavy fighter right now. Yeah, I mean, I tend to buy ships on the a little bit on the promise of what they will do, and I don't mean like NPC crews and blades and stuff, but you know, there are certain ships out there like the Reclaimer. When I decided I wanted that ship, salvage wasn't a thing. Now I got it when salvage was in, but I'd already decided I wanted it, and that's the weird thing about hobby, right? Is I don't need to be consistent throughout. Sometimes it's like Warhammer, right? And the model thing. It's like sometimes there are armies that I don't collect. There are ranges that I don't own anything from, but I see a model and I just want it. And it's complete. It's like, well, I can't use it. Like it won't ever go in a game. It's going to get built. It probably won't even get painted, to be honest, because I'm lazy like that. You know, it's that sort of stuff. So, and that's exactly the same with what's happening here. You all expected a segue into the sponsor, didn't you? Nah, I'm going to keep baiting you the whole way through this live stream. So there. But it is like that. And sometimes, like, your hobby and what you want, that's not how things work. And there's no way of justifying it. You can't justify it to yourself. You're just like, I just want it. I know. I get there's better ships. I get there's things that do it better. I get there's things that do more. I don't care. I want that one. And that's perfectly acceptable. And that's why I try not to dunk too much on people's ships choices, because there's nothing worse than feeling like that and then everyone telling you you're wrong for it. You want a ship, have the ship. As long as you're not making yourself homeless, you can still feed yourself and the family and keep a roof over your head. It'll be fine. So there we go. Okay, so that's where we are with the best in show stuff at the moment. I'm going to jump across now and we're going to have a look at what we always have a look at. And frankly, the biggest shock of IAE for me was that they made that much on best in show day. And I know there's warbonds, and I know people are able to buy this stuff outright, but they were able to buy it outright earlier on. It's only the warbonds and the paints. So does that mean, is this what happens when CIG release the paint? Is that what happens? Because there weren't any limited ship sales yesterday either, were there? You see what I mean? That's Mabel. That's mental. Dr. Pepek, skins are not able to fund the game, they said. Lol. Yeah, I mean, what you've got to do to achieve that is you've got to have skins in the game that you only release once a year and then never release again and then build it up for 5 years. And then you get a $3.3 million return, which seems like a lot of effort, right? You get my point on that. But that's where we are. Okay. It's been a good year, says Fisher. Well, funny you should say that, my friend. That's what we're going to look at yet. So yeah, crazy enough, the best day of IE so far was BIS day, $3.3 million. Which makes me feel silly, because when we talked about how much, flashbang, this was going to make in the year, I said I don't think they're going to hit 150. I was expecting 135 or 140. Well, we're hitting that. We're hitting that no problem. Because even if you look at some of the lesser, kind of, I don't know why my mouse over isn't working. Have you crashed? Is that what's happening? Stand by for another flashbang. There you go. Wonderful. Big flashbang. There we go. So when you mouse over stuff, here we go. 19 million last year, 8 million the year before, 8 million the year before that. And we're not finished in this month yet. We've still got today. And assuming we get another ship next month, oof, right? My eyes, yeah, your eyes, try being my eyes. So yeah, this is what stability gets you more clients. Yeah, and that's the kind of crazy thing. So there we are. I'm not even going to go. You know what I think of Spectrum. Spectrum's a wretched hive of scum and villainy, right? But you're seeing things like out of control entitlement. You're seeing things, people whinging about not getting it. They're still whinging about the whole D and whole E, and people need to grow up on that. Here you go. It's a mistake. Exclusivity matters. This person has paint. Not just saying, right? And again, don't go and sick yourselves on these guys, and that's not why we do this. But this is why the thing to remember is, so ask yourself, right? This is a really good. I'm gonna do this in a poll because this is gonna be fun. I think this is. This is top tier streaming. This is. I'm just going to sit here and type, and you're going to watch me. Okay. So, this is what we're going to go for. In the last week. Okay. Here we go. So, I'm going to pop this up now. You ready? Here's a question for you, and there's the reason I'm asking this. When was the last time you made a post? Not a response, not a reply. When was the last time you made a post on Spectrum about something you're like, yeah, all right, okay, whatever. So think about something in game, like let's say there's a game loop that's never interested you and it's in the game. When was the last time you said, well, it's okay, I don't mind it. It is what it is. It's not my thing. I don't really care. When was the last time people posted? Okay. What I'm doing here is, and the poll, I don't even need to wait for the poll, right? I know what it's going to say. If it's not part of an already ongoing conversation, if it's not part of something that's going on in the game right now and all that sort of good stuff, then what inevitably happens is the only people that post about it, the people that are bitching about it, and then the people who subsequently defend it. Right? So what happens on Spectrum is you always hear when people are negative. You hardly ever hear when people are positive unless they're defending their chosen thing, right? And that's the point that I'm making here. Is if all of us in here, if 50% of us are saying, half the people on the stream are saying we have never posted to say we don't mind something, right? That's that. So that's where we go, right? Luna says, I like exclusivity. If I worked hard for something or spent to have something exclusive, it should remain exclusive. Even No Man's Sky has exclusive stuff. Yeah, absolutely. I think if you buy something and you're told it's exclusive, if you. And that's the only way it's available, then yes. I mean, like, so for instance, subscriber flare, right, doesn't fall under this because we're told with subscriber flare that most subscriber flare will eventually be findable in loot boxes, and because we're told that, you're not really buying that under the proviso, well, this is the only way I can get it, and no one else who hasn't subscribed is going to get it. That's not the way that works. It's the same with things like so when, for example, and this doesn't bother me, but the Thundercloud paint when it came out was a concierge paint that was released at a time when concepts weren't really having their skins re-released, right? So that's where it was. And again, that's okay too. That's not a massive problem. the part here is that this wasn't something that was exclusively pledged for. This wasn't something that was people were told you had to work in game for this. Like I say, if you bought a reclaimer at concept and have never played the game ever, you still got the paint. Reclaimers were around before Best in Show was a thing, as in the concept sale. So there's that. Caterpillar, same, right? Carrick, same. So these are things that people have just picked up because they happen to own the ship. So it's not so much about exclusivity. They had no idea they were getting it. They weren't buying it. They paid nothing for it. It's just been awarded to them because, hey, you owned the ship. So I think this falls under something slightly different. You don't have to be a seller in the grey market to understand the downsides of CIG's decision. I mean, I don't know what is the downside, because the upside is less FOMO. I've never posted on Spectrum, so the vote was easy. Yeah, exactly that, and Andy, and I recommend that that's probably the best way to approach Spectrum. But yeah, original post, I made a reply to the Clipper thread. Yeah, absolutely. So I made posts about issues, troubleshooting and stuff, but that's more when I was playing a lot of Tech Previous PTUs. And that's the point, right? Is that this just doesn't... all we see whenever there's Spectrum drama is like... The only time people take to Spectrum is to bitch about stuff. There are a couple of posts. And to be fair... You know, I don't think half of them would have happened. If no one had said anything about Best in Skins, you would have got a couple going, well done, CIG. It would have been the backhanded compliment of finally we're getting this, you know, this should have been the way it was from the start. All that sort of stuff happened. But you don't get, for example, you know, when ASD came out, there were a couple of posts about how good it was. But nothing like the weight of when some people don't like something. And there's that, right? And it's how do you reward the behavior from your dev that you really, really want? Anyway, I'm going to put I'm going to kind of post it in that. That's the end of it. We'll put a pin in it. Maybe come back to it later if people really want to. But I don't know if there's much more to say on the subject, to be honest. Welcome in, Tobias. Jamotech, good to see you. Star Sail and anyone else that I've missed, welcome in. Good to see you all. What is about to happen as we are about to change over if we haven't already. British Celt, welcome in. Sorry, I've just looked away, so I haven't seen your comment. So, here we go. Finale stuff then. Let's see what is available. Now, obviously, until the end of IAE, the next 3 days, 3 hours, 4 hours, everything is flyable that was previously flyable this IAE. So, sorry, Pictish Celt, not British Celt. I misread that. Told you I looked away, didn't I? So there we go. So your finale, there are daily deals throughout the finale. Ooh, some people are gonna be happy. So there we go. Ta-da! Ironclad, that's the first one. Constellation Andromeda. So only 2 today, but let's look at the other one first because we'll get the discussion of this out of the way. So the Constellation Andromeda at $240 down to $220, so $20 off if that's the way you want to go with that one. Very nice. And then surprisingly, I was not expecting that the Ironclad was going to go off, and it is, isn't it? It's $40 off. Holy moly. That's not a bad CCU. That's not a bad CCU. So yeah. Not a bad choice at all. I was not expecting it to be that. Given the fact that we know the Ironclad is going up in cargo and likely coming next year, yeah, 450 is. It's 410. Oh, I've just done it again. I've got to stop clicking that. It's 410. There you go. Warbond, 410. Come on now, Winter. You've been here long enough to know this. So yeah, that's a nice step up. That's not a bad CCU to own. Cargo's going up, due out next year, so it will have another price increase. So if you get the 410 one, right, and let's go all ships on the left hand side. Go right to the bottom. So if you get the 410, here's what's quite nice. You can go up from the Reclaimer, you can go up from the Genesis, from the C2. I wouldn't go up from the Genesis so much. But you can go up from the C2, up from the Reclaimer. For $10, it's going to go to $450, and then it's going to go up again on release. So you're probably going to get somewhere in the region of a $90 saving. If that thing doesn't hit $500 on release, I'll be very surprised. So there you go. Hey Hustle, welcome in. Good to see you. Jamie Bugger, good to see you, my friend. Yeah, we started a little bit early. I wanted to cover the best in show stuff. But that's where we are. So Ironclad and Connie Andromeda. Ooh, all of the patch bundles have reappeared. Oh my god, the exclusivity. Yeah, that. There we go. Oh dear. Oh dear. It's going to upset a lot of people. Never mind. Is the sitcom one going or not? Do you reckon? Is the sitcom one there? No. Oh, well, at least there's that. So, yeah. Yeah, that's going to piss people off. Bless them. Bless them. Dark Hallucinario, what if you upgrade to the Andromeda first and then upgrade to the Ironclad? Yeah, so you're talking CCU training, Dark. That's exactly what that is. So you can make a lot of savings. And what you do if you don't apply them, right, you can find more savings to fit in the middle. Right? If you look at the savings that we've had already, we've had savings for other ships. So the Guardian MX was in there, for example. The Guardian MX would have saved you more money. So people are buying warbonds not just because they want the ship that it's going to, but because it fills a gap in the train. And that's a nice little place to go. So yeah, interesting, very interesting. I wasn't expecting that, but that's not a bad set of yeah. Why would you let people buy the things that they want? Why would you sell them stuff that costs nothing more to produce 2 of or 10 of or 1,000 of than it does one? Right? It's literally just copy and paste at this point. So there you go. Grey Cat Industrial Patch Bundle. Pyrotechnic Amalgamated Patch Bundle. Oh, you get a patch bundle. And you get a patch bundle. And everybody gets a patch bundle. Happy days. Yeah, like I said, it's going to piss people off. Because everything pisses people off. So the only thing more guaranteed to piss off the community than not getting what they want is getting exactly what they asked for. Ta-da. 2 more days of warbonds confirmed. Finale daily deals. 3 days, 3 rotations. Check back for daily new limited warbond offers. There you go. Confirmed. So we are all good. Yeah, that's where that's happening. And then there you go. Still time to take advantage of the deal. So I'm guessing just everything is for sale right now. I clicked on one. Yay! There you go. So everything's for sale. Everything's for sale. Whoop. Which is exciting, right? I know. I don't wanna send me back to the thing. Why are you being like this? So yeah, not bad at all. Capitalism at its best, says Ruboy. Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what it is. I guess I get it if people buy limited, but CIG brings it back. Yeah, and look, I mean, not that I'm blaming anyone for this, but there have been clues the whole damn time, right? All of the alien paints that have been available during every week, every year, or sorry, every alien week, every year, all have limited time on them. So limited time, again, it's just not clear whether they mean never sold again, or whether they mean it's only available during limited periods of the year. Which I get it is a bit of a cheesy way of doing that, but it is what it is. So that's where we go. No, Hero, no, Edison, you can't. Absolutely not. No, no one should be gifted Starkin. Stop it. Stop it. Just no need. Absolutely not. With the skins and patch bundle changes, it's kind of like a nice FU to the grey market for sure. Yeah, look, if people have gone to the grey market and paid massively over the odds because they thought it was never coming back, then I kind of I get it, or they didn't want to wait, more to the point, especially with ships and stuff, thinking they're not coming back. The paints and things, like, just, yeah. I've seen the price that, for example, the Citizen Con Direct thing is going for, and that's ridiculous. So yeah, there we go. So that's that. You can't charge 1K for a skin when people know they can buy it for $10 at the end of the year. Yeah, there's that. It is a clear change, and the patch bundles again were kind of disappeared. They were warbond, they were limited time, and it was never really communicated as to whether or not they were going to come back. There's that. I don't know. I've never found their like patch bundle stuff in loot crates, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It just means I haven't found them. But yeah, there we go. So yeah, just picked up the Ironclad CCU, says Wiggy1. Might work well for a chain I'm working on getting back to my 600i. Cheers, badges. Almost missed that. But you're very welcome, mate. I'm pleased that someone's picked it up and they were happy with that. There you go. So yeah, that's where we are at the moment. Lots of patch bundles and bits and pieces. There is a, I guess, a clear trend. Although no, to be fair, they started off expensive, they got cheaper, and then they got a bit more expensive again. Hello, Nemoticon. Good to see you. Welcome in. So that's where we are at the moment. A selection of limited ships, stock limited ships, will return for 24 hours only. Gee, I wonder what they are. So, yeah. There we go. So, I mean, yeah, I guess it depends what you mean by limited, Avi, doesn't it? In terms of, there will be other ways to earn ships, right? Like they've said, with things like the Idris and stuff, the intention is never to put them in the in-game stores, that they're going to be other ways to earn that, which will limit, because there'll be certain people who just won't want to have the time to be able to, or, want the ship, so they don't go that way. Same here. There's nothing to say that these skins won't appear in-game later on. There was something was shared in our Discord, link in the description below if you want to have a look, and in there it has something like, even from the original Kickstarter, they said they won't sell things that won't later be available in game. Whether that's still the case, because of course that's 13 years ago now, is questionable, right? But we'll see. Aegis, Kraken, Pioneer, Javelin, and all sold out, I'm sure. I tried, Pictish. I tried. Let's put it this way. Sorry, a quick off topic, just between Pictish and I. The news article that came out a couple of days ago about First Sea Lord General What's His Face turning around and saying there is the potential for toxic leadership at the top of the Royal Navy. 30 years too late, at least. Put it that way. And I'm not calling myself out as being toxic. I'm saying that might have a hand in why I left. Will they do more CCU every day now, or is it just the same one? So it's more CCUs every day, confirmed at the top. Finale daily deals, 3 days, 3 rotations. So there will be more. So more at 1600 tomorrow, more at 1600 on Tuesday, and they will be limited. And they did say some might return, but these, so far as I know, are new. So these are new ones. So Ironclad, Andromeda, and not bad. They sit. Yeah, absolutely, Pictish, 100%, mate. Yeah, it was around about the time that I got told that my reporting would have nothing to do with my primary job, my ability to move the ship, get the ship in position for raids and that sort of stuff. Position for whatever tactical tasking we had. Nope, it was all going to be on my staff work, admin, all that bollocks. Yeah, which tells you everything you need to know about the modern Royal Navy. Initial pledge paints are next. You reckon Olympia, Solstice, Thundercloud, etc. Do you know what? Like, I was lucky enough. I got Thundercloud from a friend. But if they open it up for more people to own it, great. Thundercloud's an awesome paint. Why wouldn't you want people to have awesome things? That's just rubbish. So yeah. Barlow says, "Oh man, the Nautilus Solstice price is crazy on the grey market." Spend 10 to save 40 is decent. Exactly that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100% pick this. I grab a Thundercloud if they offered it, said Wiggy. Yeah, absolutely. CCU from Reclaimer or C2. They're both permanently available, right? If I remember rightly. That's about the only thing that I would pick between them, and I can't say, there'll be people in chat that will say, and that's great for them. I can't say which one will work better for you. All I'd say is that, Hellwinter's making a good point. Reclaimer will have a rework at some point. They've said that themselves. There's a lot of problems with it internally. Reworks may come with a price increase. But, I think the key thing is to grab something, for me at least, is to grab something in game that's always available so that you can go up to it whenever you want, rather than having to wait for. So that, for example, I picked up a Reliant Center Halle, which doesn't bother me. The Reliant Center is only available during certain sales, but it's okay because I can rent the Halle if I want one in game that badly until a real one turns up. I could buy one in game if I wanted one, right? So that's really for me the only thing. I think launch exclusive paints will be really stretching it for CIG's credibility. And so this is the difference, and that's what Luna was talking about earlier, which is if you buy a launch exclusive paint, no one else has achieved it in any other way. They've said exclusive at launch. That might be a problem. The question is, was the Thundercloud, was it exclusively labeled as a launch exclusive paint? Was it explicitly labelled as a launch exclusive paint, or was it just a concierge that was released at the same time as the ship's concept? Because they can go away. Well, show me where it says exclusive, and we'll take it off the store. I think buying skins for ships or gear is pointless. They aren't going to be exclusive, even if they say it will be. Is it Kutka? I'm sorry if I'm murdering that, mate, but welcome in, bud. Yeah, I mean, so the nice thing about paints and stuff is that as long as they are just cosmetics, like, it's great that people are able to buy it. If you don't want to grind it, if you don't want to go run around space just looking for paints and then getting them to wherever the ship is so you can apply it to the ship, or vice versa, like, I get it. It's just one of those things where it's like, it gives me absolutely no gameplay advantage whatsoever, so I'm going to spend money on it. Great. And then, like you say, it'll be a lot of these things will be available in game. This is a really good kind of candidate for things like recipes and crafting, being able to craft skins for ships, stuff that doesn't quite work on the hex code ID stuff. If that is even still happening, the patterned things that apply to ships, it's a really nice thing for that. But I agree. There's this most of the stuff will be available on launch. In game. So yeah, The point is that you like how it looks. Exactly that. So yeah, so there we go. Someone else just picked up the ironclad. Was that the CCU or the whole thing? I hope BMM owners get an ironclad as a loaner. I mean, we'll find out, Tobias, I guess. What is it at the moment? I'm not quite sure what it is. But so that's those. I'm just gonna jump over and grab something else here a second. So here's my fleet at the moment. Then the additions to the fleet post IE are down here. So the wolf pack, so the wolf and the alpha wolf and the cutlass black, because to the best of my knowledge, they still haven't actually added the, they haven't added the models yet. Grim's away, so he hasn't been able to get round to do that yet. So that's where we are at the moment. And then the CCU chain madness sits over here somewhere. So it'll be interesting there to see if I can find anywhere that we can go up. I'm tempted to pick up a Raylan. I've got 2 Hull Bs, but a Raylan and a Hull B CCU with real world money, so I can gift them. By gift them, I mean sell them. maybe do a little bit of grey market speculation. Haven't just talked about that, but we'll see. Ironclad is going to be a beast, absolutely. I'll grab Prowler in-game later. That's where I get mine, 100%. So, there we go. Hull C and C2 says Can. Hull C says Space Saga and Defender. Or Defense equals Der. I'm guessing you mean Defender. I'm calling you out on stream, mate. I'm sorry. Perseus and Reclaimer look hilarious side by side. Reclaimer is a monster, isn't it just? That thing is ridiculous big. But I love it. And I know Luna loves it as well, so that's enough for me. I use an old Reliant core to CCU with LTI to Clipper. Nice. I love my Reclaimer, but thinking of melting. Not sure I ever get friends willing to create a special sack. Welcome in, buddy. Good to see you. Yeah, I mean, permanent missions with exclusive paint rewards. That would be good, Bolla. Yeah, absolutely. Drunk in charge of keyboard. Oh, dear. Oh, dear. So, yeah, I'm not sure where else that sits in terms of my fleet and what I could go to. I'm in a bit of an interesting place with a lot of like the Gladiator and what was the other one? Gladiator and the Zeus CCUs, because they were sat right on top of the other things that I had. Yeah. The Reclaimer is best one of the rule of cool silhouettes and the best landing animation for the landing gear ever. But I think we spoke about that the other day. So yeah, so I mean, one of the interesting things here is I've got kind of a Prowler up to a 600i. I'm not entirely sure where the Ironclad would sit in any of these chains. I'm guessing, well, I don't know, somewhere up at the top of this one, right? But we'll see. There's a lot in here that I'm not sure I actually want, right? So that entire chain is a big saving, but I'm not sure that I want it. These bits down here, the Gemini to Valkyrie sits in my account just because it's a good stab at that kind of area of making money. Or sorry, making up a chain, getting the money to make up a chain. The Galaxy and the 600i are purely speculative. They were just like, I'll give it a go. We'll see what it goes. I've totally forgotten how to CCU up to a buyback token. The CCU options only include standalone ships and nothing from your buyback store. So if you've got a buyback token, what you can do when you come to upgrades, I'm just going to go back to this. So if you know you've got something in your buybacks, go to upgrade now. Across here at the top, you've got all ships. So you can choose hulls that you don't own. And that's why I've got a bunch of CCUs that I don't own. Okay. If you've got, Khan's got it right. If you're CCUing from a buyback that you don't own yet, you can do that. If you've got a buyback for a standalone ship, it's just a standalone ship. You can buy back CCUs that weren't applied. Once they're applied, you don't buy them back, is my understanding. And I'm sure chat will correct me if I'm wrong there. But there are very few CCUs I've actually applied. So that's where we go. I have a Galaxy but no modules, hoping I can get them in game. Yeah, absolutely. If you can't get them in game, that's ludicrous. So yeah, the Reclaimer being a Hanger Queen, people saying. Really looking forward, Wiggy1 says, to seeing what the CNOU Forge, so the Consolidated Outland Forge, is like. This is the one that's going to have ground extractors. That ship, for me, is the most exciting one that they talked about. Followed closely by the Anvil camper van, based on the Spartan chassis, and then the Consolidated Outland Stingray. Just because they did such a bloody good job with the Wolf. Such a good job. That ship is chef's kiss. So yeah, there we go. Okay, thank you, because one of my buybacks is an LTI and wanted to use it. So you can buy it back. What will happen is you'll buy it back at the current price. So you won't be able to buy it back at its original price anymore. There are some really old buybacks that you could, and like I had one in my account from ages ago. It was so old, it skipped the purge of buybacks that stopped you doing that. Lol. It's now a Taurus. So there we go. Yeah, I think the Taurus and my... So of my fleet, my Taurus, correct me if I'm wrong, of the ones that I have applied, not other people have applied for me, the ones that I've applied, the only CCUs I've ever applied have been up to the Taurus and up to the Spirit. Oh, and the Vulture and the Medevac, but they were mistakes. I didn't realise you couldn't melt CCUs. Sorry, CCUs. Of course you can make CCUs. I didn't realise you couldn't melt referral tokens. So, oops. But that's where we are with that. Neil B, welcome in. Good to see you. Kruger Stingray, nice. I think the Stingray will be a bomber or a missile boat. Someone said something about beams. I'd like to see something in the small to medium range with beams. I think that'd be cool. Just pulled the trigger on a C2 to Ironclad CCU, says Marcus. That Ironclad, I'm not going to lie, that was an absolute... That was a shock. It was a very pleasant surprise. It wasn't a Kaya shock. If you know, you know. That was a very pleasant surprise that they put the Ironclad in there. That was very cool. No more beams, lol, says Hustlebones. Beams! Malemba says, I bought back my 2018 Mark 1 Hornet this IAE, being different. Nice. Thanks to this IAE, I no longer have any change. All done, Sean. Awesome. Well done, mate. Good stuff. You know what that means. It's time to start a new chain. Stingray I kind of help as a stealth or E-Warish fighter. Beam fighter would be okay, but I don't know how I feel about beams, having used the Idris one and all the issues it has. Yeah. Was a question if I needed the B and C2 or only the B for an Ironclad. I mean, you can go to any ship from any ship, but generally speaking, obviously, the more warbonds you stick in there, the more money you save. But it's up to you. Again, if people just want the ship, I mean, buy the whole thing with store credit. It's whatever works for you, mate. Again, I'm not going to get into specifics of, well, I have this and I have that, because it only takes one time to get it wrong to fuck up someone else's money, and I don't like getting into that. I can only talk about the general principles of CCUs and the amount of times we've already, and that's been really useful because the amount of times we've done that and people gone, I had no idea you did that, or I didn't think about using them in that way. And that, for example, ships that you know are going to go up in price, you can get the smallest possible value CCU up to that ship at its current price, and you lock it in. You don't need to worry. It doesn't matter what price it goes up to. It's irrelevant. You CCU to it, and then you find the rest of the money for the chain later on. And that's useful for people because we're going into Christmas. We only found out about it a few weeks before IAE, if that. So people were like, well, I'm already maxed out with Christmas. I don't have the time to go and buy JPEG ships at this point in time. It's fine. They've got it. I'm just picturing the Stingray shaped like a stingray, but could just be the name. Possibly. Yeah. Why am I hearing the like the 80s and 90s puppet show Stingray. Sounds like a medium or heavy fighter to me. Very, very possible. It definitely sounds aggressive, doesn't it? Just ask what's his face. So yeah, there we go. So that's where I am with my fleet. I'm really happy with where I am at the minute. I've got combat options in there. I've got my kind of flying Star Wars camper van. I've got my stealth cargo runner, the utility. I've got the ship I've always wanted and is just thundercloud paint applied, never being removed. The reclaimer, big unit, big old team, group play when you're not doing the combat stuff. Connie Taurus for my cargo hauling. I've got lots of medic ships and I need to do something about that. The only other thing that I have, and I need to add this in here somewhere, is I have a pulse to MPUV personnel CCU. Because. Pug Job, welcome in. I hope it looks like a Stingray Corvette, he says. Or they say. Sorry, I made an assumption there, but yeah, absolutely. Stingray is the first in-game submarine inspired by Periscope Down. Ugh. Marina. Yeah, that. Right, I'm going to stop singing now, because, like, you don't need that, I don't need... Nobody needs that. Nobody needs that whatsoever. So there we go. Yeah, Periscope Down is like Black Hawk Down, right? Down Periscope, that one. Yeah, so that's where we are with all of that stuff. Very, very cool. Like I say, I'm really happy with where my fleet is. The Retaliator feels like a bit of an odd duck in my lineup, as does the Intrepid. And then there's a reason that all of these kind of sit to the side. With the yawning, Jesus. I like them. The Atlas is going to be... At the moment, it's just in there because I've got nothing else that I want to do with it right now. And just for sheer convenience, it's in there rather than having to run around and remember whenever we get a wipe to go buy myself an Atlas. So happy with that. Sudan, I really like the concept. It's a really nice alien ship, and I have a feeling it might end up back on this line up here. But at the moment, I'm not sure, so it sits on the line below. The Wolves are definitely going to go on to the Keep line, and the Clipper, again, is probably going to sit in the... I'm going to use it a few times. I mean, it's a pre-made crafting bench, so I'll keep hold of it until crafting happens. But there we go. Melted a lot of pew-pew ships as IAE to secure an Arastra and a Stinger. I'm now done with my fleet. Nice, Tobias. It's a nice place to be, is when you feel like you are ready to go, and your fleet's where it is and there's nothing else out there that you want. There's a couple of ships that I'm kind of interested in, so I bought a couple of CCUs. I got one up to the Expanse. I got one up to the Hull A. I like the look of the Hull A. I might end up having a whole B to myself, to be honest. But we'll see. Till they release the next ship. Yeah, I mean, Badger Karaoke, Neil B, nobody needs that. I promise. That's just not. There we go. Intrepid is good for the small run around. Yeah, absolutely that. What I really like the utility for, as I've said it before, is because there's 5 seats in it, it's a great ASD ship. You take it down, you've got a couple of SCU containers in there, one for each person. They can stock up with as much loot as they want, go back, drop it off, go back into ASD, and it's a great kind of loot goblin farming ship. And the really nice thing is it's a very small cargo signature, which is why I like it so much. Yeah, really, really cool. The Guardian at the moment, I'm running with some, what are they called, attritions. That's slapping. That's doing some damage, and I'm looking forward to giving the Wolf another outing as well. But I have a feeling now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait until the end of Free Fly and things start to stabilise before I go and do any real combat flying. It will also be after Free Fly that I look at doing the video about the Perseus. A Naval Officer Reviews. We're going to be calling it Ready for Inspection. That's when I'm going to have a look at that and figure out how all that's going to work. But yeah, excited to bring that to you guys, because a lot of work is done with it. And I think I'm going to muck around with the PDCs on it as well and try changing the PDCs out, all that sort of good stuff. So yeah, another 100 new ships coming by the time 1.0 launches, and they'll all be the best ship ever. Exactly that. I was hoping for the Terrapin Medic to return as a CCU. Upgrades are being rolled out very aggressively. for the last few events. It seems to me. Yeah, the daily warbond things is kind of standard for IAE. Obviously, we had the Terrapin, so whether the medic makes an appearance, I'm not sure. Again, I'm hoping people get the warbonds that they want. So, CIG should put a warning in front of the store. Yeah, there's loads of like click through things, and we all know gamers don't read, right? So doesn't matter how many warnings you put up, people ain't gonna read them. Stand by your beds, exactly that. I need the bosun's call. I don't feel like so few people would get what that is. It'd be such an in-joke, but maybe I do it anyway, and then people find out, and you're like, oh, that's the thing from Badges' videos. We'll find out. So yeah. Unusual worlds, Monster Avies after like a water world, which would be the time to bring in subs. Yeah, I mean, the Rock Canyon world from like the Carrack video, where there's just huge pillars of rock, where you're gonna have to land somewhere specific and open, and then go in and explore on foot. Forested worlds like in Endor's Moon, whatever it is, with all the trees and stuff. Again, where you can't land in a lot of places. All this sort of stuff is going to happen. Ocean planets, all that sort of good stuff. Hasselbone says, you all like the whole generalist class idea or nah? So I like generalist as long as what it does is it doesn't become a Mary Sue, right? If it's able to provide everything you need in order to live, so you can craft your own life support gel and you can do basic medical top ups and all that sort of stuff. Not even maybe med gel, but things like you can craft paramed stuff and all that sort of good stuff. If they can do that, and the basic, maybe the tier 1 components, not the most impressive ones, but if it can do that, then great. When it starts becoming a crazy tier med bed and it can craft everything it wants and all that sort of stuff, it's like now we're kind of getting into the realms. This is one of the criticisms ages ago with the Carrack, right? It was that it was able to do pretty much everything at that point. So yeah. The issue with the generalist for any given task is there's always a better option. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the point. Generalists, you aren't taking them for one task. You're taking it to cover a bunch of eventualities. So generalists for me are the, you go out for a couple of days. I go out for 2 weeks. And when something goes wrong that you need to go back to base for, I don't, because I can craft it. And the stuff that I can't craft, I bring with me, and that's what I prioritize in my cargo hold. Then everything else is about carrying the materials ready to go for what I need to craft. And that's the clever thing with it. Hey, Truther, welcome in. Good to see you. Generalists are great things for smaller groups or solos. Exactly that. Yep. And like I say, so I don't have a ship that can carry the Anvil Spartan, and that's the chassis we think the like camper van thing next year might be coming in. It's a conversation I had today. I didn't hear them say that it was Anvil. If that's what they've said, or if that's the expectation, then it's likely based on the Spartan chassis. I don't have anything that can carry the Spartan chassis right now, as you can see. So for me, it's like, fine. I'm really interested to see what they do with it, but it won't be something that I'll be picking up necessarily. There we go. So yeah. I like the design, but what's it actually offer over like a Cassie Red? Crafting. The office crafting. John Crew did say it was the Atlas platform. There you go then. That's what it is. I couldn't remember off the top of my head, and I don't want to go off a conversation and then tell everyone that that's what it's going to do. But there we go. So yeah, some interesting bits and pieces. I'm just wondering whether or not we can kind of last this out until 1700, because I'd be really interested to see what the first hour's takings is like. What do you reckon? Can we make it that far? Is that something that we can manage? Right, so on the right-hand side of the screen, these are all CCUs. So I have for example, Freelancer to Cutty Red to Vulture to Connie to Vulcan. What I don't have is a Freelancer. Okay, so these are just CCUs. I actually do have, so this chain here with the Spirit was supposed to go all the way up to the Reclaimer until the Reclaimer appeared in my inventory. Thanks, Canon Edison. Okay, so this was supposed to go from this all the way through to the Medevac, then all the way through the Gemini, the Valkyrie, up to the Reclaimer. Obviously, that train's broken now because I got the ship that I wanted at the end of it. But I've kept that part now just because it's so useful in that realm. And yes, they did the thingy CCU today, or, you know, up till 1600, the Asgard CCU, but that requires new money. I've got that in store credit, so whatever. I guess the new Generalist class will be the new starter ships, potentially. Although, you know, there's going to be professional starters, there's going to be all sorts of stuff, right? There's going to be people who want to go out and salvage, and that's their thing. There's going to be people who want to go out and fight, and that's their thing. And the Clipper can't do that. It can't mine. You know, there's lots of stuff it can't do at the minute. So yeah, that's going to be the I just want to set out on my own or with a friend, and I want to figure out what the World of Star Citizen's all about. That's where the Generalist comes in. And it's going to excel at that. It's going to be really good. The Atlas platform will mean an Asgard, Hercules, or one of the unreleased ships. Exactly that. And that's why I don't have that at the minute. It seems almost counterintuitive that you're going to go somewhere in a camper van, but you're going to bring one of those whopping great ships to move it around. Do you see what I mean? It's kind of like I'm going to go in my VW camper van, but rocking up in an 18-wheeler with a trailer driving out the trailer at the back. It just doesn't make sense. But there you go. It doesn't have to. It just doesn't make sense to me. So yeah, sure. But Mark also mentioned that in that Star Citizen Live that lockers were a part of gold standard passes now. Yes. So lockers, lights, lockable doors, all that sort of stuff will be part of the gold standard pass, as will things like weapon racks, component bays. And it looks like the new ones also, the new component bays, also have things like they have gaps for life support, computers, that sort of stuff, which weren't present in all of the component bay passes they did originally. Excuse me. God, cold. $600 should fit the Atlas after rework. Yeah, exactly that. My current RSI store credit is 10 cents. Chavez, that mate, there's a life goal right there. Congrats. Much respect. Well done, you. Pugjob says, Clipper seems weird. Must keep materials on the ship to craft. Can't gather its own resources. Why not just keep spare components, weapons, armor, etc. on the Grib in store all instead? Yeah, I guess it's... You're hoping that you get the right combination of stuff. I think for a lot of the basic, you would expect for a lot of the very basic items, a lot of the same materials are going to be used. So having that flexibility of going, oh, I would have only packed 2 size 1 shield gens, but I need a third. So thank God I packed the materials. Yes, exactly that, Luna, and that's a very apt comparison for Wales, I guess. But yes, he says, looking at his fleet, I'm not going to lie, I've been exceptionally lucky in that a lot of that had nothing to do with me. So, and that's not copium. That's not cope. That's what it is. There's not a lot in there that was actually me. In fact, I'm really worried at what is me, and that's a little bit terrifying. Jesus, that's terrifying. I don't want to think about it. So there we go. Jedi Drifter, welcome in, says, I've noticed that many players use the Perseus like ocean ships. But while in space, if your shields are failing on one side, why not roll the ship over so the top turret is bottom and bottom is top? Yeah, there is no way up in There is no right way up in space. It's that bit in Ender's Game, isn't it? But yes, exactly that. Just rolling the ship can be really effective. So yeah, a plushie maybe for crafting. Can the Clipper craft me a friend? No, but if you want friends, you'll find them in the DGP Discord. They are the link in the description below. You're more than welcome to come and join. You'll see a lot of familiar faces in there. It'll be kind of the usual suspects, as it were. But we are always happy to have new player join, and everyone that's in, they are, they all started out as a not a usual suspect. So you're more than welcome to come and join us. We'd be happy to have you. So there we go. Crafting ammo is probably the biggest thing for me personally, says Bolla. Yes, I'm sure it will be. In fact, I think pretty much they've said that. The initial crafting will all be FPS stuff. So yeah. At least that's what they've said so far. I'm sure it'll change to include other things as they go forward, but that will be that. And it also sounds like we'll get a set number of recipes at the time, and then the ability to find recipes or blueprints. They're calling it. Why am I calling it recipes? Maybe I'm just hungry. The ability to find and learn blueprints, I think, will come later. There was a comment in one of the progress reports that said that they've created like an online standard set of blueprints as part of the first iteration, and this is like the foundational work for the database of blueprints for each player that will come later. So whether that later still means before release or not, I don't know. But I wouldn't kind of bank on it. We don't bite unless asked to first. Wow. Yeah, absolutely, Pictus. Should love to have you, mate. By all means. Raging alcoholic with gaming problems. Yeah. So there's that. Good. Glad you're coming in. So yeah, there we go. Rusty Pigeon, welcome in, buddy. Good to see you. We're going to see if we can make it to at least an hour after changeover, so another 15 minutes. We're going to see what the first day's changes have been like. But for the headlines, of course, that's just happened. So I'm going to go down here instead. Where are we? This one. Ta-da. So today's headlines: Ironclad and Connie Andromeda are your CCUs for today. They will change over tomorrow, as you can see by this bit here. Says it's going to change over daily during the finale. There are still some limited ships which aren't happening today. They're happening tomorrow, so December 1st. Same time this changes over tomorrow, so we'll have a look at what they are. And then there are patch bundles that have returned for people to have them. Do you know what's really sad here? Is I kind of like the look of the Hazard one. I kind of like the look of the Hazard one. And I know I shouldn't, but I do. So there. I know. There's no accounting for taste. I get it. So yeah. Hull A is probably where the raft is now. Hull B around 200 maybe. I'm not sure. What does the Hull B sat at the minute? We can always speculate on this a bit, I guess. So let's go to upgrades. All ships. Let's kill that one. So where is the Hull B sitting at the moment? It's not much. It's 140, isn't it? Something like that. Is that right? Yeah, 140. I think it's going to go up significantly, given the fact that the hulls went up anyway, and then they announced it's getting slightly more cargo again. I think, didn't they? I mean, even if not, the hulls went up. I mean, you look at what happened with the Hull C. The Hull C jumped up significantly to where the Hull C and the Hull D, there's only $50 separating them. So just bear that in mind. Yeah, 384 to 512. That's significant. That's really significant. I mean, in terms of, so I'm just going to scroll down this way. Let's look at cargo ships that sit in that niche, right? I mean, the Connie Taurus is 176 at 200. Where are the other cargo ships? Radiant. What's the Radiant at the minute? Someone remind me. Putting it below the cat, you reckon? Starlancer Max. Yeah, somewhere. So 200 is a minimum, I would guess. And again, as speculation, getting something, so the Cutlass Red, for me, this is why I have two of these. I went Cuddy Red to Holby. They're $5, and then I can ride that increase. I can ride that increase for myself, and I can also ride it as a gifted thing. So there we go. Holby just below the cat, Raelian just below the C2. Yeah. So it doesn't run completely off of the cargo capacity, obviously. And the other thing with the Holby to remember against ships like the C2 and the cat is the cargo is external as opposed to internal. So that's a consideration as well. But yeah. Also, rule of cool, having it extend and all the spindles appear. And also, that's a lot of cargo to be landing on a planet like that. For a whole series, that's a lot of cargo. So they said basically, I think rather than the spindle being upright, being at XY axis, they're going to split them so they can still land. Maybe the end of the spindles have landing gear on them to keep the crates off the thing. Don't know. Don't know. But that's basically what they said, is they went from that to that. So, yeah. Modular, Cat is in theory is still modular as well at some point. They mentioned it being modular, and I think it was taken off the description, wasn't it? But yes, I mean, I really want that. I really want to see things like a Caterpillar drop shop, a chop shop, and a Caterpillar drugs lab, and a Caterpillar kind of like hideout. That sort of stuff would be really, really cool. But we'll see. So yeah. Raylan C2 competitor though could break 400 with alien tax. Yeah, and this is the other thing with ships, as people were saying about there'll be 100 plus more ships before launch, before 1.0. The thing with the ships is they even said it themselves at the ship talk, right? Is that what you do is across the top you go size, and then down the left or the other way around. Across the top you go every role that you want, and then down the left you go by size. And they don't have a tick in every box yet, and they said they're not even going to stop at a tick in every box because they want competitors in the same space. So you've got kind of extra small, small, medium, large, capital, that sort of stuff. But then you've also got cargo brackets internal, and then you've got cargo brackets internal brackets alien, and they can break that into as many categories as they want. Pathfinders, explorers, kind of all that sort of good stuff. So yeah. Then now we were adding generalist as a column apparently, which is kind of cool. So yeah, it's why I've kept my Caterpillar also interchangeable command module with the Ironclad. Did they say that? Did they say that it's interchangeable? I know they said there were issues, weren't there? Because people would then go potentially and just go fly around in the command module and steal other people's ships, which causes all sorts of gnaws. Yeah. So yeah, they did mention it. Okay. I wonder how much SCU the Banu Merchantman will end up with. I think the last change was probably pretty accurate. I think they got to the point where they got the internals figured out. The trick now is getting all the detail and doing all the grey box work and all that sort of stuff. So, or sorry, white box, whichever way round it is. Whichever one comes second. I don't know. I can't remember. Maybe that'll be a good topic for a video at some point. They say a lot of things. Hustle bones, never a truer word spoken, my friend. That's exactly what happens. Lots of things get said. And look, I'm just going to say this right now, because it needs to be said. One of the truest things they've said, and I don't think they're going to change this, is they reserve the right to have a better idea. So they're not going to abandon really good ideas just because they said something about a bad idea earlier on. Okay. And it's that sort of stuff. It's that they weren't going to abandon the SCU just because freight units, yes, funny acronym, didn't work. Which is what then caused the issue with the whole D and Hully. Because in freight units that would have worked. When the entire quantity changed to SCU, that didn't work. So there we go. Thinking of changing my Perseus to a Polaris, what do you think? I think it's a cheaper way to get it now if you want to, Rusty. Whether that's good for you or not, only you will know. I assume that you've tried both and you've given both a bloody good go. If not, there is a free fly. For the finale of the free fly, all the ships that were previously flyable are back in the exhibition hall. So even though RSI was a good few days ago, you can go and fly them again. So give them a go. Just get some friends together, give them a go, see which one feels better for you. Dave Will says, learnt through a few silly World 1 CCU purchases, just invest enough credit into the game and buy whatever you like from then on. All new ships over the last 20 meters, 20 mil. It cost me nothing. Avoid War 1 CCUs. Yeah, I mean, for some people, what's quite nice about the what's the word that I'm looking for? What's quite nice about the whole store credit thing is, like, at one point I just put 100 quid into the game and just used that, melted one thing, used it, melted it, used it, all that sort of stuff. Just bear in mind now that we are coming to the end of this. Anything you buy, you need to wait 24 hours before you can melt. So just be careful. FU's made for better memes. They really, really did. Citizen Ninja, Hull B might increase soon to 220 on the webstar, then 250 at Flyable, with a Warbond CCU discounted by $20 to $30. Yeah. So Hull B, Cuddy Red to Hull B, $5. And you'll ride that all the way up, which will be really, really nice. So yeah. What if they raise every ship to the next ship price just to break all chains, like a Hull to a Raft Raptor? I don't think they're going to do that. I think their problem isn't the fact that the chains exist. They knew this was going to happen the minute they put the chains together, right? If they were worried about people getting cut price ships, they would never have issued Warbond. They would have just gone, you can have upgrades and that's it. I think if they have a problem, it's likely with grey market scalping. So there we go. The SU nerf was a real FU to Holly, and I don't think it was. I'm really not sure that it was. When the 98,000 figure was quoted, it wasn't SCU, it was FU. And then, as in freight units. And freight units were never supposed to be big, so you'd get a number of freight units for an SCU. It probably, again, still doesn't. It doesn't compare directly. It's going to have been a knockdown in number, right? But the minute they start talking about the servers won't manage, you know, what do people want to do? Buy a Holly and then just have a constantly laggy experience because their ship will be lagging whichever server they're on. No one wants that. So it was still too high. So yeah. So it was, when it was quoted as 98, it was FU, right? Then when they changed everything over to SU, they changed it to SCU on the website and didn't change the number because they still didn't know how big the Holly could be. So they just kept the number they had before. They basically kicked the can down the road, and now they're suffering for it. I say suffering. Now they're reaping the reward. So yeah, that's where they are. Retina, welcome in, my friend. Good to see you, buddy. So yeah, that's where we are with that. You don't have the intended distance through a lot less systems initially, but yeah, that so much has changed since the initial version of this, the initial kind of concept of this game, right? And I don't think that's surprising anyone. So one of the things that is probably worth looking at, I'm just going to see if I can find it. Here we go. So I kind of wheel this out quite a bit, right? But this is really useful because this kind of shows exactly what they're talking about. And forgive me for reading, but you'll see the differences as we go. He talks here about, I start out planet side on New Pittsburgh. I decide to buy a few tons of steel to fly to the shipyards of Terra. Okay. So you buy it, all that sort of stuff. Here we go. I'm currently in the hands of the Galaxy server that communicates with my client and handles my purchases and interactions on the planet, as these are not in real time in the manner that the space action is. So that's already changed, right? We render these in the manner of Freelancer as detailed 3D environments where we see a third-person view of our character in a location, when we can click on non-player characters or terminals to buy, sell, upgrade your ship, right? So basically, like StarCraft, where you would change between the bar and the this, that, and the other, you see your character there, but you can walk around and talk to different people, but it's a set environment, right? Not like it is now, where your same character goes for places. And I'll show you, it actually says this in a second. You'll also be able to interact with other players via a chat interface. Yeah. The bar or private clubs will be where you can meet and chat to other players. But beside populating the bar with NPCs, the game will also populate the bar with other players. There you go. So you wouldn't even walk around the entire planet or the entire landing zone and see other players. You had to go to the bar to meet other players. Okay. So you launch off into space, blah 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 blah. Okay, here we go. Probability volume stuff. You do the event. You fly around. Da, da, da. This process is continued until you reach your final destination, which in my example would be Terra, where I use my comm system to negotiate a landing slot, which would take me down to the planet's surface via an in-engine cinematic. So at this point, when all of this was done, bearing in mind that this was, when was this posted? I don't know if it's going to have the date on it, right? This was right towards the beginning. There we go. So November 11th, 2012. So this is the original vision, right? All of this stuff is right at the beginning. Yeah. So you go to PlanetSide versions via an in-engine cinematic. There was no intent to allow us to do everything that we could do. So at that point, and this is how fundamentally things have changed. And freight was one of those things. And what CIG are currently kind of reaping the reward of not doing between then and now is when they changed from FU to SCU, they changed what they knew. Any ships that they weren't sure of, they just kept it the same, despite the fact that they knew many or a number of FU would fit into one SCU. So they knew things were downsizing. And this is all kind of, you can go and have a look at this up when they did the change to SCU. You can find the Star Citizen video. They said all this in the video. They knew this was happening. Obviously, with the Hull D and Hull E, they were aware that it was likely they were going to get less cargo. But because they were nowhere near planning these ships out, they just went, we'll deal with that. There's no point in putting the cat amongst the pigeons right now because we won't have answers for years. And that's where we are. The bit where I absolutely support Hull D and Hull E owners, all of them, is they sold them knowing that that change was going to happen. They sold them 2 days before they made that announcement. And there's no way that decision was made 2 days before. There's no way that decision was made after they sold it. I'm sorry, it's just not. That's not how fast things work on that front, right? They don't make a decision internally and then we find out about it 2 days later. Things just don't work that far. It's got to go around teams. There's got to be consultations. They've got to make sure that this stuff works. And they will have been looking at a very long time, as they said, can we even support a model that big? So it's just a long way of saying, it's not great. But having said that, if you look at the cost of those ships and then the SCU they could move, to move anything like that, those ships would have gone up in cost multiple times their original value. So I think coming down, looking at it now, how things work, the fact that 30 USU containers are now considered the maximum, they're not going to do bigger ones than that. Like whatever 98,000 divided by 32 is, good luck with that. So yeah. I'm more worried Hull D and Hull E will lose the ability to put modules on the spindles. Well, the other thing is they talked about making them bigger, right? So they can do other things with those platforms. So they could potentially add other things to them. So maybe they've got other like loading ports or some other method of getting cargo onto them, that sort of stuff. But if you look at those external freight elevators in Nix, even now, a Hull D is going to empty multiple freight elevators, external freight elevators, completely empty them to get anywhere near full. Anywhere near full. So there you go. Yeah, thank you, Retina. It's good to catch up with you, bud. And I appreciate your comment on the video. Thank you, mate. So yeah. So I think for the Hull D and Hull E owners who feel properly aggrieved by it, I think there's no harm in approaching customer service and say, hey, look, this is where I am. There's been a significant change. Whiskey Tango Fox. Can I, what about my money back or whatever else? So, there is the economy side as well. Absolutely. So there's multiple aspects to this. You're right. So yeah. But yeah, as they said, they're still expecting the Hull D and Hull E to be, for the moment, the upper limits. I mean, I imagine they will release competitors into that space, but I doubt they're going to go more because, like I said, if you take them at their word that the problem here is capacity, as in server capacity, and the impact it'll have on its economy, competitor ships, you don't want them going higher than that. So maybe you'll have other ships in that region, but I don't think it's going to be, enough to really trash what they're capable of doing. Okay, so I'm just gonna let's kill that. Ooh, good lord! It's because I've zoomed in all that way to see all the crazy text. So let's have a look. I'm really interested to see what they made in their first hour. Let's have a look. So, with the 2 warbonds, not bad. 276,000. For comparison, the first part of Anvil Day, Aegis Day, was 665,000. So not bad. Not bad as the first hour. So there we go. So if everyone uses a hull, then the stocks will be full everywhere. So it's both supply and demand, right? Because if everyone uses a hull, you won't be able to pick stuff up because people have already got it. Hull C, D, and E were supposed to be the most popular ships in the game, having turret modules and shield modules attached to the spindles to upgrade ships to their military versions. I don't know where that's come from. I'd be interested in seeing a link or whatever, where that came from. D&E are capital ships, yes they are. It's still sad that we won't get to see the absolute batship splendor of a space station size Holly moving 25 meters per second through space. They are still going to be, with 12,000 SCU on it, they are still going to be chuffing huge. Again, I still don't think they fully grasp how big those ships are going to be. So yeah. Now you mentioned that again, after I got over it, lol, I sat down and counted to 10 30 times. Oh, what was that? The whole thing, Pictish. Sorry, mate. We'll move on. There's no way the game could handle the sheer volume of cargo. I said we move on. Support, not to mention what would happen if the cargo was scattered on a moon or a planet. Yeah, can you imagine it crashing out of orbit and 98,000 SCU getting spilled over the surface? Ouch. Yeah, and people will do it. People will just go, I'm just going to get 98,000 SCU of scrap. And then I'm going to be an asshole. And I'm just going to leave them all in the way of the jump gate or whatever. There's loads of things people will do it. Yeah, I can hear the servers crying too. Exactly that. You can load a collapsed version of the Hully on the Fleet View so you can see how big it will be empty. Yeah, they're not true to scale anymore. They're not true to scale anymore. They're only based off the metrics that CIG had. They talked about they had to make them bigger. and they made them so big that the dimensions didn't work anymore because it's just not a straight. Because of course you can, just like you were going to go and drag an image, right? You can just drag the bottom right hand corner and just make it big enough so the cargo fits on it. The question is, what do you do with the rest of the ship, right? When you've got a Bengal-sized front section to the Hully, and then a Bengal-sized rear section to the Hully, how do you fill that space with reasonable stuff, right? And that's where there's only so big the front and rear sections can get before they're just full of wasted space. Like, before they are literally pointless, redundant modules. So, yeah. Anyone heard the news yet that MDCs with PDC also work in space? Improvised space mines have arrived. Yeah, you need a lot to make that work, right? I think we're all kind of aware that a Perseus with 6 of them, is not necessarily going to be the most overpowered thing in the world. So if CIG find out that people are buying 10, 20 MDCs to use as space mines, they are going to be rubbing their hands together with glee. They're going to be like, lol, ching ching. Yeah, your Holly toilets, yes, are the size of the Royal Albert Hall. You need to, you need to go with a camelback and a walking cane just to get to the toilet, from the toilet to the sink, let alone back to the exit. 100%. Let's have a look. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do. Here we go. Let's have a look. Let's see what it says about the whole D, because this is where people are saying the stuff is. Which hull D would better complement the operation of an RSI Orion platform? A C or larger would be best with dealing with the amount of ore the Orion produces. Again, I don't think we can. When was this? 2015. Okay. So yeah, bear all of this. Take all of this with a pinch of salt. Containers will be separate much of the time. They'll be loaned to you when you accept a cargo run. You have the option to configure your hull with different containers for different roles. Well, we know there are like liquid containers and stuff. Do you need to bring your own? Probably not, I'm guessing. What do the other 4 crew members do, especially the 2 that aren't on the whole sea? The whole D&E can be operated solo. On paper, the 4 other crew positions are manned for the ship's defensive turrets. Other important roles for the whole crewman include co-pilot, loadmaster, and engineer. Not surprising. Would it be feasible to run a whole D or E as a solo player? Yes. The captain seat will have access to all crew functions, so you're able to fly solo if you desire. Manning multiple turrets during a firefight will be a challenge. So, is the modularity of the whole series largely limited to swapping out cargo pods, or is there sufficient room on other parts of the ship to include specialized areas? There will be room for internal options as intended for most of our large ships. We're still working on the system and release details in the future. For the hull D, it mentions a military variant. Would that be a choice we could change our hull D to in future? Yes, the military variant will be available in the finished game world. As all of these are modular, you'll be able to equip them on top of your existing hull pledge if you so desire. So there is a commitment to it being available in the final game, in the finished game world. Whether that means sold or not, unclear. Will it need to refuel after every jump? Multiple jumps before refueling. Also capable of in-flight refueling from a Starfarer. I think it would suck a Starfarer dry in seconds, to be honest. For what reasons might someone choose a hull D over the more manoeuvrable hull C or the more massive hull E? The simple answer is that the entire lineup is a sliding scale. As more and more cargo space is added, the speed and manoeuvrability is compromised. The hull D is for pilots who want to move a lot of cargo but aren't willing to go quite as slowly and methodically as the hull E will require. While it's tempting to pick the highest number and decide that it's best, it's likely most independent captains will get more bang for their buck with a smaller ship fully laden than struggling to afford as much cargo as it would take to stock a Holly. There you go. So there's that. So yeah, and of course, as with everything, things are subject to change. And I say that about everything in either way. Even if it had said, no, we're not, things are still subject to change. So remember that in both directions. So the hull C discrete, whatever the hell one of those is, there's a military variant available in the finished game world for sale. Unclear. Question hazy. Ask again later. So there we go. That's past the statute of limitations. Yeah, there's that. So yeah. Well, yes. So I agree, Neil. The bit that I don't agree with in they've sold them like this. What they sold you was the hull D cargo. They didn't sell you the hull C discrete, and they didn't sell you the variant. Right. So yes, what you bought was what you've got. So yeah. The whole discrete, yeah, but it says there it'll be available. So that may be what it is. Hey, Eve Inspiration, good to see you. Welcome in. I'm sorry if I missed you before. Yes, I did miss you before. You were on there for a little while. But yes, so there we go. I mean, I'm not going to lie, guys. Sometimes it's really useful to go back through this stuff because, like, even here, there's some really old salts in here going. I don't. I don't know. So things like this, for example, will the Hully be able to disable some thrusters when not followed? This won't just be possible; it will be necessary in most cases. Fine, great. In automatic flight, your thrusters will adjust based on the overall load, but you'll also have the option to control them more directly yourself. I mean, we can switch them on and off, right? Will it fit inside any of the hangars? We're planning on making larger hangar expansions to accommodate ships like the Hully or the Orion. Is that still going to be the case? Don't know. I don't think it's going to fit in an extra large hangar. I really don't. I really don't. It might do, but I really don't think it will. So I think this is going to be around the same time, right? So it's May 2nd, 2015. So it's the same sort of time. Automated loading. Grabby hands mean you can load every part of the ship if you so desire. What does grabby hands mean? But in all likelihood, you won't want to do that on something as large as a Hully. Loading can be done automatically via mobiGlas, and then the cargo itself can be organised through the console interface. If the Hully can drop escort fighters, does this mean the pilots of said escort fighters need to stay in the fighters? So this is the idea that fighters will be able to attach to the Hully, right? This will depend on the fighter. We've been experimenting with a system where you must construct a Hornet from components stored in standard containers. This would be... Do we think this is happening? I'm guessing not. This would be something you do in flight, similar to sub-launch craft in the 1940s. Unfold the container, put the ship together during an EVA, and then take off. In these cases, which would involve heavier ships like the Hornet, you would not be able to land on the hull. We also plan to have smaller midget fighters such as the Merlin, which could be launched and recovered with tractor beams. The Hully looks big enough to stow away on with no one the wiser. If I fly my Aurora up to the back of a cargo crate and mag clamp to it, can I tag along? The short answer is that yes, anything you can fit in a crate, Aurora included, can be carried by a Hully. We expect to develop manned modules as well, so expect isn't a promise as far as I'm concerned. It's an aspiration. If you'd like to travel on a hull as a passenger, now that they are 32 SCU containers, I think that's less likely, right? In case I transport ships with the Holly, what kind of insurance will be necessary? Base hull insurance rather than additional cargo insurance. So cargo insurance is or isn't a thing. Is there a militarized Holly version? Yes, it's nowhere near as common as the Hull D, but the UE military does on occasion utilize the Holly as a transport. That's the Perseus. So I've seen that mentioned in chat already. Is only the Hull E capable of transporting, refueling, and refitting escort fighters? No, any ship in the series is capable of mounting this equipment where space allows. The Hull E just has more space for it. That is, the Hull D can likely be modified with refueling equipment or smaller ship attachments, while the Hull A can probably not. Is this going to continue? Again, the Hull C's out. Will there be a reliable source of missions? Yep. Will there be some hauling loads that physically cannot be broken down? Yep. Whether it's a Xi'an mega piano. What on earth is a mega piano? Go figure. There's always something out there that you won't want to take apart to ship. Will you be able to have more than one midget fighter attachment at a time, and if so, how many? This will probably depend on what attachment points are available. Someone who trades in a good deal of their cargo space might be able to attach a number of fighters. Can the Holly internal corridor fit a Grey Cat? We're going to leave that to you to figure out. I mean, as answers go, that's a pretty crappy one. That's not helpful at all. What the... Yeah. And I think that's the thing to bear in mind, right? Is that some of this may well end up making it in and that sort of stuff later on, or being adapted in some way. I think one of the things that might really work with this is because it's getting bigger, it seems, in order to fit all the cargo that they're talking about, actually having snub bays on it might work, right? Snub attachment points. So that might work. Yeah. Anyone else having trouble buying CCUs today? Asks 65 Jigster. Not tried. Has everyone else been all right? Has anyone confirmed problems? Have there been issues? I'm not sure. I've not really seen what's going on. Log out of your account, log back into Space Saga. I reckon if they can fit it, CIG will try with the military modules because honestly, the mill versions of the whole series is a cool concept. Neil B says okay for me. Fury comes to mind as DDE snubs. Yeah, Fury. I mean because obviously it's from the same manufacturer. It might even get its own bespoke ones, which would be kind of cool. Especially if the ship's getting bigger. What do you do with all that space? Some self-defense stuff might work, right? Maybe its own tenders that double as stuff that like its own, almost like an MPUV cargo, or an MPUV tractor, but something much smaller. So it doesn't have to be modular to accommodate the personnel or cargo module. It can literally just be a small cockpit only tractor beam thing. Yeah, tenders. So like mini tugs, but literally like you can literally come alongside, and then rather than having to have like a multiple tractor beam points, you can actually have little snubs that just come out and move around and pick stuff up, and so there. Yeah. Lots of different options there. Like I said, again, I am bothered for the Hull E guys and D guys because I feel like it was sold, especially this time around, knowing the change was coming, and I see no reason to believe that they didn't know the change was coming. It should have been updated, and the reason I say that is partly because they updated it. They did that in the ship talk, and then a couple of days later, it still wasn't updated on the ship matrix. And if we check now, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but we'll have a quick look. And again, that's that's a little bit scummy as kind of as far as I'm concerned. What happened there? Will someone tell me what happened there? What just happened? Why did it do that? Why? There we go. So Hull D, Hull E over here. No, they have changed it now. So the cargo capacity has been updated. So there we go. The highest capacity. Good question well asked. Is it the Banu? 2880? What did the Javelin have? Yeah, Javelin's got 5,400. Ta-da! And I think that's going to drop. I think that's going to drop significantly again. I don't think it's going to stay at that now. I think having a military frontline ship being only 800 SCU less than a fucking space container ship, I think that's going to be... Why would the Orion hold more? I don't think it will. I think there's a chance that the Orion will hold stuff in its buffers, sure. So it'll have what it's ejected, and then it'll have what's being refined, and then maybe it'll have what has been refined but yet hasn't been ejected. But I don't think it's going to go that. Higher SCU than what? Hasselbones? Even Hull C will have higher SCU than what? Yeah, the Javel drop. 100%. There's no way it's staying at 5,400 now. Yeah. Yeah, I could do. I was just thinking about ships that sprung to mind, right? Yeah. There you go. Javelin, Merchantman, Idris. Why? Why? Just... There we go. There's the annoying bit. Idris, cat. So Hull B's already reading 512, which is nice. So they obviously got a bit of a backside kicking for that sort of stuff. So yeah. And yet there are so many more ships to come, so we're having this conversation again next year and the year after that. Yeah, exactly that. We don't know yet at the minute, Eve. It's not clear. Missing the Kraken in the top of that list, are you sure? Is that because they are unsure of it at the moment, what it's gonna hold? Yeah, for some reason that didn't show up. Go figure. There we go. So that's where we are today. So what I'll probably do is I'll pop back on. It won't be a massive stream tomorrow because obviously there won't be anywhere near as much. I hope, please God, no more drama, than what we've had to chat today. But we'll have a look at the warbonds again tomorrow. We can have a talk around fleets and stuff like that if that's what people want to do. But I'd be more than happy to have a look through and see where we are with all that sort of stuff. If that's what you guys want to do. There's always more drama, says Wiggy. Yeah, absolutely. You'll need at least 10 systems for Hull D and E. Yeah, they're not going to be a priority, I don't think. So there's that. But yes, there we go. That's where we are with everything today. Hopefully, those that wanted the Ironclad will be able to get to it. Just bear in mind, obviously, last chance, this IAE, to get to the Hull A, Hull B, Raylan and Argo raft. If you still want them, their prices are going up after IAE. So last chance to lock them in. Just be aware that those are changing. Don't be left out if those are what you want. If not, then it's awesome. Maybe you can ride the price increase. Maybe you just don't care. And that's all right too. Anyway, that's been more than enough talking for me this evening. I need to get a drink because my throat is not playing anymore. It's been awesome having you all here. You've been watching Drinkers with Gaming Problems. Thank you very much for stopping by. I'll see you soon.